how large of a threat would you say the Islamic State of ISIS is?
And we need to put this in perspective. They don't have nuclear missiles, so they're not like Russia or China, but they are also the most capable terrorist group in history. They control actual territory, which generally speaking terrorist groups don't have. They have a very large budget. They stole a lot of money from banks, the places they took over. And I'm sure you've heard some of these stories. They sell antiquities and all of this kind of thing. And they're trying to put a figure on it. I think it's several $100 million a year that they raise. In other words, they've got a substantial funding base. And then they're very effective and good on social media in a way that previous groups have not. So it's a different kind of threat, and it's much more serious than previous terrorist groups. But the terrorist groups are still a lower category than state actors.
In your expert opinion, what would be the most effective ways to combat the Islamic State?
Actually, I teach a class on this. It's called Strategy Assessment, the class, and it's all about how to conduct an effective strategy against Islamic State or Russia or China or whoever. Anyway, what we teach in the strategy class is that typically problems are multidimensional, and that means there's a security aspect to it, but there's also a financial aspect, there's a media aspect, there's a social aspect, there's a religious aspect, all of this. And so, and that's very much true of Islamic State. And so what we have to do, and this effort is underway by the U.S. government, is understand all those different elements. How do they recruit people? Where do they get their money? What kind of religious motivation do they have? On and on. And understand all of those elements and then act as quickly and simultaneously as we can against all of those. And that's pretty much what our current strategy is in terms of a framework. I think there's some argument over whether putting enough resources on it, whether just bombing them, and we don't do a lot of bombing relative to what we've done in some other cases, whether that's enough, whether we'd have to send in troops on the ground, that sort of thing. But also keep in mind that some of these things like the financial are very effective, but you never see it happen, and you shouldn't see it happen. But it's not going to be on the nightly news because it's not dramatic like showing the bombs going down. But you have to have money to make anything happen. You have to have money, so that's an important part.
So based on your understanding of all these things, how would you say that a multilateralist approach to defeating the Islamic State, say through the UN or maybe even just NATO, how effective do you think that would be to currently defeat the Islamic State?
Great question, and I think that's an important part of this. Even though we're a superpower, we still can't and I think shouldn't do it on our own. We should share the burden with other countries. They have an interest in this too. The French were attacked. I was a Fulbright scholar in Paris. You can imagine when they had that attack in Paris last fall, how hard that was. As they're panning the cameras down those streets and showing people carrying the bodies, I walked on the streets. I knew that city very well. So the French have a stake in this, and so do the British and the Germans and everybody else. So yeah, it's very much, that's another component of it, in addition to the financial and whatnot, is the diplomatic and